Like Russia, China is attempting to prevent Israel from invading Gaza and removing Hamas, which murdered 1,300 people, wounded 3,600 others, and kidnapped between 100 and 200 hostages in an attack on October 7. China has also avoided naming the Palestinian terror group many times in their public statements. After a meeting of the United Nations Security Council adjourned on October 8, the day after the attack, without condemning terrorism, Russia is now demanding a meeting on October 16, at which it will insist on a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. China, for its part, is accusing Israel of using excessive force, even though, at that time, Israel has not yet begun a ground operation in Gaza. As reported by the South China Morning Post, Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said Israel should stop its collective punishment of Gaza's civilians with actions beyond self-defense. He warned it would worsen regional tensions and lead to humanitarian disaster. In a call with Saudi Arabian counterpart, Wang also condemned the continued Israeli retaliation to a shock attack a week ago by Palestinian militant group Hamas, which controls the Gaza Strip. According to a Chinese Foreign Ministry readout released early on October 15, Wang told Prince Faisal bin Farhan Al Saud, Israel's actions have gone beyond self-defense. Iran is also trying to save its terrorist proxy, warning that it will widen the war if Israel invades Gaza to remove Hamas. Russia, China and Iran have expressed their opinion toward the Hamas-Israel war. The response garnering the most public attention is China's stated neutrality. Experts said China's stance on the war has upset Israel, but Beijing may gain in the long run by forging closer ties with Arab countries. Shi Yinhong, professor of international relations at Beijing-based Renmin University of China, said, for a while at least, Beijing's Middle East policy is paralyzed by the war. Shi added, the U.S., which strongly supports Israel, is directly or indirectly involved. Who is there to listen to China? That hasn't stopped China from trying to be heard. According to the Times of Israel, China's Middle East envoy, Zhai Jun, talked to Palestinian and Egyptian officials by phone this past week, calling for an immediate ceasefire and humanitarian support for the Palestinian people. Zhai also called Israeli officials to say China has no selfish interests on the Palestinian issue but has always stood on the side of peace, on the side of fairness and justice. He said that China is willing to work with the international community to promote peace and encourage talks. Wang Yi, the Chinese foreign minister, came out more strongly for the Palestinians, saying, the crux of the matter is that justice has not been done to the Palestinian people. This conflict once again proved in an extremely tragic manner that the way to solve the Palestinian issue lies in resuming genuine peace talks as soon as possible and realizing the legitimate rights of the Palestinian nation. Wang said China has long advocated for a two-state solution that allows for an independent Palestinian state. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, while traveling in the Mideast over the weekend, called Wang to ask China to use whatever influence it has in the region to keep other countries and groups from entering the conflict and broadening it. According to the U.S. State Department, which declined to characterize Wang's response, China is known to have close trade and political ties with Iran, which in turn supports Hamas and the Hezbollah terror group in Lebanon. The conversation was the first high-level U.S. contact with China over the Mideast situation since Hamas's assault. Maria Papageorgiou, a lecturer in politics and international relations at the University of Exeter, and Mohammad Islami, a researcher at the University of Miho, wrote in a joint email, Beijing, by trying to maintain a delicate balance, wants to position itself as a mediator and exert its influence in the region. The U.S. support for Israel will give China an opportunity to expand its arms sales to dissatisfied Arab countries, but China also wants to resolve the crisis to protect its economic interests in the region, they said. The researchers wrote, China's engagement in the Middle East is set to increase during this conflict. Beijing will play an enhanced role in efforts to end the war and secure its economic interests and wants to capitalize on the Arab states' frustration with the U.S. to establish itself as a great power in the region. Jonathan Fulton, a senior non-resident fellow at the Atlantic Council, said, China is trying to promote alternative norms in global politics, and China sees Arab states as a natural constituency for China to try to attract. Fulton said, by appealing to Arab countries, they'll get more support for the reforms they want to push through in the international system. Beijing's approach, though, risks alienating Israel. Tuvia Gering, a researcher at the Israel-China Policy Center at the Institute for National Security Studies in Tel Aviv, described Beijing's position as pro-Palestine neutrality, much like its position on Russia's invasion of Ukraine has signaled support for the Kremlin. Gering said, "You cannot be neutral in something like this, silence is acquiescence." Gering added, "The problem, I think, the biggest one we have, is that China, instead of being the responsible major power that it claims to be, is exploiting this conflict for geopolitical benefits." He said China was looking to win the support of Arab countries on contentious issues such as Beijing's treatment of the Muslim ethnic Uyghurs in the northwestern region of Xinjiang. Under Xi, Beijing has pursued a proactive, sometimes assertive, foreign policy. It has sought closer ties in the Middle East, the source of much of the oil China needs, and a nexus in the Belt and Road Network, Xi's massive infrastructure building project to connect markets around the world through railways, roads, seaports, and airports, and to extend Beijing's influence. This year, Beijing helped restore diplomatic ties between Saudi Arabia and Iran, building its credentials as an alternative to the U.S. in brokering peace deals. Wang Yiwei, another international relations professor at Renmin University, said China is better positioned than the U.S. to help resolve conflicts, whether between Saudi Arabia and Iran, Russia and Ukraine, or Israel and the Palestinians. He said, "If you're just on one side, and make another side hate you, you cannot be a broker." He added, "So that's the reason China did not join the West to sanction or contain Russia in the Ukraine war, because we need to be the bridge." But China's proposals to end the war have been seen as benefiting Russia. Dale Aluf, research director at Sino-Israel Global Network and Academic Leadership, an Israel-based think tank, said, "In the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, China's stance might be more about projecting an image of a neutral and responsible global player rather than acting like one." Aluf said China's continued insistence on a two-state solution is disconnected from reality. China also has displeased Israel by refusing to join the US and other countries in designating Hamas as a terrorist organization, seeing it instead as a Palestinian resistance movement. Since the war began, Chinese state media have come down hard on Israel. They have cited Iranian news outlets in reporting alleged use of white phosphorus bombs by the military, and they have blamed the US, Israel's strongest supporter, for fanning the tensions in the region. Bombarded with hostile messages, the Israeli mission in Beijing now filters the comments on its Chinese social media account. Yaqiu Wang, research director for China, Hong Kong and Taiwan at Freedom House, said there has been a surge of anti-Semitic sentiment on the Chinese internet. She said, "On the Israel-Palestine conflict, the Chinese government has always propagated a narrative that places the blame squarely on Israel, a key US ally, because this aligns with a key objective of the ruling Communist Party's propaganda, to undermine the US and the international community. This time, it is no exception." Mor Sobel, an assistant professor at Tan Kong University in Taiwan who focuses on China-Israel relations, told Axios, "By not condemning Hamas, China is looking to score points with the Arab countries." Sobel said, "It's a very cost-effective strategy in the Middle East. They are calling the U.S. a biased actor. They are trying to decrease American influence in the region. They are playing the long game." Don't forget to comment in the section below to share your opinions on today's topic with us. Make sure to like and subscribe to see more interesting topics from Understand China, and thank you for tuning in.